good day and a little white label here on the rocks to your health. Salute. I've been drinking water and coffee all day. Wanted to talk about something that came up today. I mentor people. I have a lot of clients all over the world, and about 50% of my clients are in real estate. The other 50 are in financial services, insurance, attorneys, doctors, all real mix. And the question came up today: Claude? What do I do? I have done a contract with somebody on a property. We have a signed agreement, and now they want to back out. And what should I do, Claude? And this will happen to you if you're in real estate. This is going to happen to you. First thing is always have a good. And here's the solutions, by the way. First thing is you've got to. And let me play with my little buttons here, just so I can see if all live messages are visible. Okay, good. Chat viewing options. I'm doing this on my phone. Hey, bottom line, you've got a person who wants to back out of the deal, and always have a good contract. Have an excellent contract up front. Make sure you have the description of the property, the terms, the date. Believe it or not, these are things people forget. Have a short contract. Don't have a 100-page contract or these super long contracts you get from some of the gurus. Short contracts are the way to go. Why? Because people will sign them because they understand them and they're short. If you have to review it with them, you can go right over it with them. And it has to be bound by some kind of consideration, either a performance or cash. Usually it's cash. And make sure they both sign it and have it witnessed or notarized. Real important. Okay. The next thing is, so they want to break the contract. You have it all signed and everything. You've maybe done your due diligence on the property. You've inspected the property. You've done everything on it. You maybe put money down already. You gave money. And you get the phone call, the heartbreaking phone call. You're ready to do this deal. Oh, well, I changed my mind. I don't want to do it. I got a better offer. What do you do with this person? How do you protect yourself? And the first thing is basically that I say to people is how much money, you got to do an analysis of the deal. Is it worth fighting with this person over the deal? I know, egos aside, is this a deal that you want to protect? Do you have enough profit? Why are we in business? Question I always say. We're in business to make money today and to, as the sign says, to give good phone. But let's say it's a small deal. You're not making a fortune on it. Do you really want to go to war with this person? You can threaten legally. You can do things. But basically, is it worth the aggravation, the emotional investment on these deals where you're grinding your teeth? How dare they do this to me? I did all this running around and everything else like that. So sometimes you got to put your ego aside. Maybe you're just not dealing with a decent or honest person who keeps their commitment. So sometimes you got to make the decision. Do I go ahead with this deal? Do I renegotiate the deal? Or do I take the contract and just rip it up? And that's the decision you have to make. You got to put your ego aside. When people, I would say the $1 million rule, people make decisions very quickly emotionally. And it's a good way to persuade and influence somebody. But you got to ask yourself, are you going to become emotional and make bad decisions and maybe say things that you'll regret later? You got to be careful on stuff. You got to be very careful on stuff like that. Okay. So, number one, do I go ahead and do I rip up the contract? Number two, call up the person you negotiated with. Hopefully, that's the owner of the property, the head person, the decision maker. You've got to set up a one-on-one with them. You got to call them up and say, and first question is, why are we doing this? Why are you backing out of the deal? And maybe find out why. If you can save this deal, can you renegotiate the terms? Can you go back to them and say, okay, we can do this or that, or change the money, change the terms, or something like that? See if you can save the deal. Number two, if they don't want to save the deal, they just want to get out. Maybe they got a better offer from somebody else. Okay. Um, what you can do with them is use the A word or the L word. That's attorney or lawyer. And you can basically say, you know what, if this is the way you want to do, and say you have enough money in it. In this case, this person, I believe, who I spoke with today, he had about 50,000 in this deal, substantial amount of money. So you want to say to them, look, we have a contract. It's bound by consideration. You signed it. I signed it. It's been notarized. It's been witnessed. And if we can't resolve this here today on this phone call, my next phone call is to my attorney for advice on how to proceed. And the procedure is basically recording the contract. And this is my opinion on the legal aspects here, because I don't know what state you're in. But there's something called a lis pendens. And that's where you basically record something against the title, so they can't go and sell it to anyone else. No one else will buy the property or finance the property if there's a lis pendens or a cloud on the title at that time. So that's the way you protect yourself at this stage. So you might have to call your attorney, say this is what they want to do. They want to back out of the deal even though it's signed. Um, and how do I protect myself? How do I force the court to order them to perform on this transaction? So that's kind of playing it hardball, and that may not be in your DNA. It's in mine. I hold people to their commitments. I keep my commitments. I do business honestly and ethically. And if I've negotiated a deal with somebody and then they want to back out because it's raining that day or some silly reason, or usually it's they got cold feet, someone gave them bad advice, or someone came in behind you and made another offer, you have to stand your ground and say, okay, we're going to let the judge decide. And many times, and do this in the evening before they go to sleep if you can, or late in the afternoon. You'll get a phone call the next morning after they sleep on it. In many cases, not guaranteed, but many times they will. And that's just the way you want to. That's just the way you want to go about it. The third solution to this problem when they want to back out of the deal is sell them an escape plan. Say, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Prospect, I want to do the deal. You don't want to do the deal. How much are you willing? This is the phraseology you use. How much are you willing to pay me to void the contract? For us to do and this is the technical part, a settlement and accord. And that's a contract where basically where you're saying we've reached a settlement and there'll be no further legal action because of some kind of consideration, some kind of remuneration paid to you. Okay, and these are the things that can happen in business and real estate many times. So you want to negotiate. So if it was a deal, I'd say where you stood to make a righteous 50,000, I would not negotiate for less than at least 10 to as much as 25% as a minimum of the potential profit of the deal. Now that could change depending on how much time you've invested, how much money you've spent, how much driving. Your time is worth money. Sometimes these deals they take days, weeks, months. You're negotiating, you're driving, you're having meetings and things like that. How much? And that's where you might want to keep a log of your time. And your time is valuable, and if you don't value it, nobody else will. And kind of the psychology of persuasion is not letting people manipulate you, and standing your ground, especially if you have a contract, in real estate, a written contract is really sacrosanct. It's one of the few areas of business where verbal contracts are not accepted, and everything has to be in writing. So if you have a good signed contract, hopefully it's witnessed and it's bound by some kind of consideration, your next point, after using the L or the A word or ripping up the contract, the two things we talked about, is to negotiate that settlement. So in this case, if you were to negotiate, let's say 5,000, you pay me $5,000 and I'll let you out of the contract. Now they may argue and everything else, and you'll say, well, if we can't reach a settlement in accord today, then my next phone call is to my attorney. So rather than proceed, and let me throw in a caveat here: when you're in business and you have to go to court and hire an attorney, and I've studied law, I have a degree in law. Nobody wins. Okay, you don't win. It's emotionally draining, it's time consuming, it's damn expensive, and you don't get a quick resolution. The courts are backed up, especially on a civil proceeding. It could take weeks, optimistically, but real world, it'll probably take months and months till you get to court. Okay, so bottom line, you want to settle this, negotiate a payment to get out of this deal, and then go on to the next deal. And that was the advice I gave this person today. I said, make them an offer for 10, take 75 to $5,000 and get out of this deal. So they have to pay you to get out of for you to rip up the contract and get out of the deal because they felt they changed their mind for no good reason, or they want to do a deal with somebody else. And your power is that you can put a cloud on the title, you can file the signed agreement, you can do the list pendants, and you can do a legal civil proceeding here. And that's basically what you have to do to protect yourself in a deal when when the prospects changes their mind. This can go for a buyer or a seller or an investor. You've got to use good contracts, use short contracts. Don't use don't use long contracts. Use a short contract, something everybody understands. Have the five integral parts of that contract: the price, the terms, and everything else. And make sure it's signed. And and make sure that it's witnessed, or you have a mobile notary come by, or go to your local bank or credit union. A lot of times you can go there and they'll notarize it for free, by the way. At least the banks I belong to do that. If not, you got to pay 20, $30. It's worth it to protect yourself. So it's, finding a deal, negotiating the deal, having a good contract, and protecting yourself in the deal. That's what it's really about. My name is Claude Diamond. I mentor people in creative real estate, lease purchasing. I'm the author of the Guts training method. That's how to qualify somebody in maybe 180 seconds, how to work really smart. You never go to a property unless you're going to pick up a check or a contract. You learn how to use this wonderful technology, Zoom and everything else, so you can negotiate face to face. And this is the best way to do real estate. But you got to know a little bit of law, and you've got to, I'm going to use the A word, you got to be a little bit assertive when you're negotiating a deal and somebody wants to back out of it. Make sure that you know how to negotiate this deal. Unless it's a total loser, it's not worth the time and trouble. Rip up the contract. But there's something, I even have the note here on my desk, something called reciprocity, or reciprocity squared, I call it. If you do something for the seller, make sure you get back what you really want from them: a payment, a promise for something else. Make sure you're always asking questions and negotiating. We'll talk about that at another time. I wanted to, this came up today and I wanted to share it with you guys live, that just doing the contract is not enough sometimes. People change their minds, they backpedal, they want to get out of the deal. Make sure you're protecting yourself in all ways. Okay. And it's a great business. It's given my family a good life and security, and that wonderful, the good F word, freedom, which we all want. Real estate is the best business in the world, but you gotta have good contracts. You've got to be very good at marketing. Got to have leads, buyers, sellers, investors, and the third thing, you have to be, and this is important, superb in your ability to sell, persuade, and negotiate. Go to my webpage, claudediamond.com, and schedule a free consultation with me, or give me a call. I answer my own phone, 619 206 5960. I'm going to have a little sip of my white label here, to your health, and thanks for joining me this evening. Bye bye.